Hey everyone, on this week's episode of Three Cups and a Dash of Spirituality, we have a guest with us. It's the Ghostess of Galveston. Is that not the best name? She's here with us today. Let's start the episode. Hey everyone, it's Michelle coming to you with another episode of Three Cups and a Dash of Spirituality. I'm here, as always, with Carissa. Hey, Carissa.
Hello.
And Stacy. Hi, Stacy.
Hello. I like preemptively was like getting it out before you even said hi. I'm just excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here too, because today we actually have a guest. As many of you know, Chris and I have done a lot of adventures together, and one of those adventures was to Galveston, Texas. And we went in there, knowing who we are and what our thought process was on spirituality, and Galveston taught us many lessons. And one of the people in Galveston that we met was Melissa Hall, the Ghostess of Galveston. Like, how wonderful is that name? And she's here with us today. Hi, Melissa.
Hi. How is everybody? Great to be here.
That is such a cool name.
How did you come up with that name? It's wonderful.
Well, I'll tell you, it all has to do with intention. So I've done the ghost tours at the Galvez for over a century. Oh my gosh. And I've always wanted to do other things outside of the Galvez. And I tell you, when I decided to do that, I was putting my intentions out there, just putting them out in the universe and saying one day it's going to happen. So, and I've got some things I'm working on that, for the future, and I'm really excited about them. So,
now my interest is piqued. I want to know.
Well, let me tell you, we're going to have another overnight paranormal investigation Friday the 13th in June. Y'all are the first to hear that.
Wait, I so wish I could be there. I have a son getting married that weekend, so I can't, but that would be fun.
When's the next one? Do you know yet?
I don't, because I tell you, my last one was actually in 2018.
Oh, wow.
So, and I've been saying I'm going to do it, but the Galvez, it was always my full-time job first, and the ghost tours were, secondary. I'm only working 3 days a week now at the Galvez part-time, so I've been able to do more with the ghost tours. And I'm like, since this has started, it hasn't been too long ago that this has started. So, I'm putting more effort into it. I'm going to bring a couple different tours, new tours as well to the Galvez. One of those is going to be a history and architecture tour, and like I said, it's time. It's time for things to get rocking. Yeah.
So on the overnight, though, is that literally overnight? Or you stop at 3 a.m.? What does it look like?
Well, I'm just now putting it together with, it is going to be an overnight package. So, and I thought about that for a long time, but it's an experience and you have to have that full experience. So I'm actually co-partnering the overnight with Spooky Galveston, Jen Kill.
We know her.
I know you do. And I just love her to death. She is, if I'm going to recommend a tour, other than mine, it's going to be Jen. So like I said, we're actually co-partnering this event. We're going to have a few different aspects to it. She's going to do a 1900 storm beachside 1900 storm stories. I'm going to do a tour, before the investigation, just to let everybody know who we're looking for, who we're trying to talk to, a little bit of the ones that I know. And, we've got the overnight aspect. It's going to, there's a couple other hotel things, to it. So, but it like I said, it is going to be an overnight package.
That is so exciting. And it actually makes me want to ask you a question, if that's okay.
Oh, certainly.
What started that for you? How did you get into the ghost tours? Did you have an experience? Did something kind of I don't want to say unravel, or did something happen for you?
At the Galvez, I tell you, it was actually part of when I accepted the promotion to concierge. It was actually part of my position. And I didn't find out till probably maybe 5 years after I was concierge the hotel used to outsource them. So that's what I am now. I'm my own entity. It's Ghostess of Galveston LLC. So, I mean, it is my touring company, and lucky enough, the hotel embraces the spirits there. So, I mean, like I said, they pretty much let me do anything, but something like this, an overnight, I felt like they needed to get their piece too. It was, the least I could do for them letting me use the hotel as my playing ground for so long.
So you said you started at the Galvez like 20 years ago.
Oh, no. I started at the Galvez, I guess almost 13 years ago.
Okay, 13 years ago. So it's gone through a couple changes in ownership, because I know when I first became aware of it, I knew it as Hotel Galvez, but it's now the Grand Galvez. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And I will tell you, at the end when we were the Hotel Galvez, our manager at the time, he didn't want to be known as haunted anymore. It wasn't something, I mean, the Mitchells who owned the property, they didn't, care for publicizing them. And I don't think that they realized how popular the ghost tour was going to be once we started back, under the Mitchell, or started the tours back. So, but yeah, we have went through new ownerships. Mark Wyant from Dallas actually purchased the hotel, I believe at the beginning of 21 or at the end of 2020. It was right after COVID. And, I was working at the front desk then. And I just asked my manager, I said, when are the tours? I said, are y'all going to bring the tours back? She said, hang on a minute. And she came back and said, they're on, And like I said, the dynamics have changed. Before it was, the hotel, paying me just a little bitty bit. But like I said, being my own company, I have the freedom to do the days that I think would be better. I'll tell you one of my secrets. I actually follow the cruise schedule. We get so many cruisers out of Galveston. So I try to do them the days that they're coming in, during the week. Like I said, I'm just very lucky that they embrace the spirits there at the Galvez.
And as concierge there, you weren't interested in spiritual, or didn't have a spiritual experience before that? Was it just part of the job? Is that what started it for you?
No. You're talking way back. Okay. I just gave you the short version. I'll tell you. My mom taught me and my sister how to read at a very, very early age. I mean, she was all about, phonics and all that. And she spent a lot of time with us. So I'm telling, and I can remember to this day when it clicked with me, reading the book, See Spot Run or whatever, when that reading clicked with me and I was off and running. And let's just say my dad had a huge bathroom library. And one of his books, and it was a solid red paperback book, and it was short stories on the paranormal. So I read that, like I said, I mean, before kindergarten, and I'm like, it stuck with me. And then things started happening that I had read. And I'll tell you the second one. Well, one was my dad. There's a story about a UFO. My dad and a few friends, they witnessed a UFO, scared me, the bejesus out of me. I slept under the covers with the pillows, over my head for a month after that. The second one was the story that I had read in that book that came true. Our babysitter died from spontaneous combustion.
Oh my gosh. Spontaneous combustion just came in my head before you said that. And what in the world is spontaneous conjunction?
So that, I think, is what set everything in motion for me to embrace a little bit of everything, different beliefs. I mean, that was the strange, macabre, and, kind of taboo. And I hate to say that, not at that early age, but I mean, I've always been interested in anything and everything spiritual, paranormal. And I'll be honest, every woman in my family has the ability to see. I've been told by many mediums that I have the same ability, but I've blocked it out. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, that's something that, but I feel, I could feel when they're around. I don't know if it may be just a Galvez guest or ghost, spirits there because I'm familiar with them, and they're familiar with me, and I think they're comfortable, and I think that, they come around. So
Melissa, can I tell you something that happened? So I stayed in was it 505, 504 room? What was it?
was it
500 or 501. The one.
y'all stayed in Audra's room, didn't you?
Yes, Carissa did.
So
501.
So the second night, nothing. The first night, I think it was the first night. Yes, this has never happened. But I was laying in bed in the middle of the night, and my heart rate started to just go off. Heart rate, and I knew something was in the room. So I was like, "All right, let me kind of get up and take my eye mask off." And my guide said, "No, don't take your eye mask off. Go back to sleep." And that is very rare for me to go back to sleep because I tend to wake up in the middle of the night and toss and turn anyway. Went straight back to sleep. So I don't mean to, you may not want to go off on this. I don't mean to scare anyone about the hotel, but
I think I know where you're going. Go ahead.
okay. But is there any that maybe, and I've had not so nice, I've crossed very not nice people. Let's just say that. But maybe older, not nice spirits. Do you know maybe who that was, or
are you talking like older, like as in like an older gentleman, or are you talking like older, like elemental, or
like old? I don't know, but it's been around a lot, and I really feel like if I would have opened my mask, it would have showed itself to me. Which is, I've never seen a stuck spirit. I've only seen my family members who passed over in front of my face.
I've
never seen a stuck spirit. So I don't know. Is there some? What do you?
I've been in and out of that room thousands and thousands of times, and I've never felt any type of bad or negative energy. Now, I will tell you that I've done many, many tours with mediums and their advanced students. They're the ones that they're mentoring. And every time that I've walked into that room with a medium group, somebody or multiple people will always go to that bathroom to the left-hand side and say there's a portal there.
Interesting.
Oh, I got full body head chills with that.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I did too then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would those be confirmation chills?
I believe so.
Because I had no idea who, what, anything it was.
Yeah. So, and like I said, every one of those tours, somebody has said that.
Now my brain's like, okay, portal to what though?
Well, I know. I've got an amazing photo that the gentleman that actually that they outsourced the tours tour. That's how I found out they were. He brought me a photo, and it was an 8x10 glossy photo. He had it framed, and he said, "Melissa, this belongs to you now." And he was so proud to give that to me. And what it was a photograph, and it looks like an hourglass figure, but it's see-through. You can see that it's hollow. And if you could think of what a portal would look like, that's exactly what one would look like. And I'm telling you, it is right there by the music hall, which is right below where 501 is, right in that same area. It's all connected right in that area.
So none of the mediums and their students come in and try to see what that portal is connected to, or they just acknowledge it. Do you ever know if they've actually sat in there and tried to connect with it?
They don't, because usually, a lot of the ones that I did, they would have dinner following. So they'd have, one of it's supposed to be like a 90-minute tour that I do with them, and one of them 3 hours later. And I'm like, guys, I got to get y'all to dinner, because we cover a lot of territory. Yeah. And it's like we have, got to go here, we got to go there. So, and they've never had really the chance to elaborate. We haven't had to, the chance to spend a whole lot of time in there.
But just any listeners, and I know Stacy wants to say something, any listeners, the next 2 nights were lovely. Absolutely calm, peaceful in that room. So please don't take what I say and don't stay in there, because it was lovely. Sorry, Stacy.
No, you're totally good. I'm just curious, Melissa, with your experiences doing the tours and everything, have you had any standout experiences of your own?
Oh my gosh, tons.
Is there one that kind of comes to the forefront before the others?
I'll tell you one of the first ones that I had, and it was amazing how Oh my gosh, I've had so many. I don't know what to tell you. Which one to tell you? I'm going to tell you about this little old man that I actually came upon, and it was so detailed. I was coming through the kitchen, and I happened to glance over to my right to see who the manager or whatever. That's the way to the office, and I seen this little bitty old man, and I'm telling you, I could see every detail from the weathered. I mean, so tanned, and the weathered skin. You could tell he worked his entire life outside. And he was maybe 5'2". He had a white long sleeve cotton shirt on, and the pants that he had on looked like the Carhartt, this color that we have today, and it looked like the same fabric. And in my mind, and I'm telling you, the way they fit him looked like skinny jeans. In my mind, I remember saying this 3 different times. Why is he wearing skinny jeans? Why is he wearing skinny jeans? And like I said, I thought this 3 times, and then, I never stopped. As soon as I saw him, because I was walking the other direction, I turned back around, because I didn't stop. Like I said, I turned back around to look again, and I could see his hat. It was made out of woven palm fronds, and I could still see green in spots. And he was backing up into the wall. They said that usually they don't want to see us more than, most people want to see them, although it doesn't bother us any, but that was the most detailed one I could tell you that I've had. Now, I had one up on the 7th floor, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Maceo family here in Galveston. Mm-hmm. They were rumored to be the mob family, gangsters. Depending on what you read about them, they were bootleggers. We know that. Mm-hmm. Well, Sam and Rosario, they actually lived at the Galvez when they owned the Balinese across the street. Mm-hmm. So that area up there is completely different energy than the rest of the hotel.
Is the 7th floor the one that was blocked off?
Uh-huh.
The one that Carissa and
did y'all sneak up there?
We did. And
it was.
I couldn't wait to get out, but Carissa was very encouraging. I'm going to throw
it was.
Oh, really? So you know what energy I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I mean, it's very intense. I've had some strange experiences up there, some very strange photos taken up there. I did take my tour up there one time, and it was myself and the 2 others. There used to be a pool table that sat there with bar stools around it. And I saw a spirit then, and I don't know how to describe this. Maybe y'all could help me. It was the outline. I could tell immediately he was like from the 20s, 30s, big suit, padded shoulders, pointed. And you could see that, it fit in very tightly in the waist. He wasn't sitting on the bar stool. He had his foot up on the rung. When I noticed him, I said, "Oh, I think I just saw something." And 2 sisters behind me said, "We did too." And they ran over, and they said he was sitting right here. And when he saw us, he got up and he walked into the little room, the little door. But what was so different about him, it was like the outline. I could see the entire outline of him, but it was like just amber light. I don't know if it was his energy that I was picking up on or what, but it was that's one of the strangest ones I've ever had. But like I said, it was awesome. I mean, that's the only way I could describe it. It looked like energy.
Yeah.
And up in that space, I felt very, I don't know what the word is, jumpy or snappy, or like I just had to keep looking quickly behind my back, like quick energy is what it felt like to me. That could have been my own heartbeat because I was breaking a rule, and I'm not a rule breaker.
Did you feel on edge?
Yeah.
They really don't care for females up there. I'll be completely honest there. I mean, they've never done anything. There's never been any bad experiences, but a lot of females, they will experience lightheadedness, shortness of breath, feeling dizzy, just wanting to get out of there. And I just say, just go back down, so, but there's a few areas in the hotel like that, but I have spent a lot more time up there with mediums than I probably have any other place in the hotel.
So on those floors, are they under construction now, or are they just closed to the public for the reason that they are haunted?
No.
Okay.
The entire hotel is haunted. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They'd have to shut the whole thing down. No, they're actually renovating the 8th floor suites right now.
And our owner's trying to determine what he wants to do with that 7th floor. So that one's going to be next.
With the people that you've had kind of touring that floor, that particular floor 7, have they come up with any interesting backgrounds or stories or anything that you're kind of like blown away by?
Yes, there was 2 days in a row that I was taking my tour up to the MacArthur boardroom, and both tours, once we got to the MacArthur boardroom, I had a gentleman tell me this on the first day. As soon as we walked in to the boardroom part, because when you walk into the boardroom, there's a wet bar, there's a little parlor area, and then you actually walk into a boardroom, and it's literally surrounded by like attic space, rafters and stuff like that. It's cool. The gentleman said, Melissa, there's somebody at the back of the room. He is very upset that we're here. He does not like us here at all. I said, I am so sorry. I said, we will be leaving momentarily, and we didn't stay up there long. I, told him a few stories like I do in the other spots, and we left. And the next day, it was a husband and wife that was on my tour, and he was, taking photos. And I'll be honest, I thought they were quite unusual. They didn't speak the entire tour. They were kind of away from the tour doing their own thing, And as soon as we get to the MacArthur boardroom, the wife says, Melissa, there's a very angry gentleman at the back of the room. He doesn't want us in here. And I said, I said, it must have been the same one that was telling us that yesterday. Oh. And once we got back downstairs, we have a display case that had some different items in it. And there was a photo there that was David Beck, the Teamsters Union boss, and his bodyguard. She took me to that photo and she says, Melissa, that's who I saw.
Oh, wow. The bodyguard or the other guy.
I don't, and you know what? I was so flabbergasted. I didn't even think to ask which one. So, but if you could think of anybody that would be there with kind of the mob family of Galveston, who would it be? A Teamster Union or, somebody for Teamsters and his bodyguard? I would definitely think it would be one of those. So
that's wild.
So
it's
wild.
crazy.
And you being there, you get to know a lot of the spirits that are in the hotel. Would you be open to sharing with us one or two that you know that are there or that you've come in contact with?
So there is a little boy that likes to follow me around. His name is Robert. So, and he tugs a lot. He hugs a lot. He pets a lot. And he, of course, he's one of my favorites. So, and he hangs around 501 a lot too. He's been spotted in 501 quite frequently. So, and I'll tell you, my most famous one, and I love him, and I think he loves me as much as I do him. I have, let's just say, multiple photos of him. I know who he is. I have his obituary. Kathleen Maka actually helped me find out who he was. Well, I knew who he was. Mr. Bobby, the first photo that I ever did on my very first tour, I had ladies that came down that stayed the night. And they said, Melissa, we've already been back down to the haunted bathrooms. They said, we lined ourselves up exactly the way that we were in the photo. They said the only way that this gentleman would be here is if he was standing in front of us. Mm-hmm. And I looked and I said, well, where this gentleman was standing, he was actually standing right next to them. And, they actually caught him in the reflection of the other mirror that was in front of them. So I know who this gentleman is. And like I said, Mr. Bobby knew from the get-go. He told me his name, but, being my first tour, let's just say there was a whole lot of things going on. I was still so nervous and everything that it soon went out the door. Well, people started calling him Tom for Peeping Tom because of the bathroom. And like I said, I reached out to my friend Kathleen Maka after I went back to Mr. Bobby again and said, Mr. Bobby, what was his name? And he gave me his first, middle, and last name. I reached out to Kathleen to see if she, could help me. And I said, can you tell me if this gentleman ever worked at the Galvez? She got back with me very, very quickly and said, Melissa, he worked at the Hotel Galvez from 1964 to 1976. He also worked at the Galveston Country Club. That was the first country club in Texas. He worked at the Artillery Club. He worked at the Pelican Club. He also worked at the Old Galveston Club, which was Galveston's last speakeasy. Another friend of mine, she came up with his census records. He literally grew up within within a 1 to 2 mile radius of the Galvez his entire life. Ironically, him and Mr. Bobby are now buried in the same cemetery. But my next tour immediately following that, as soon as I held up his photo, because it was a tour with my mediums, as soon as I held up his photo, the head medium said, "Melissa, he used to work here." I said, "Thank you, he did." And she said, "When he worked here, these were not the restrooms." She says, "These were executive offices. This is where he would come to cool off." Nobody would know that because there's a door there to our bell closet now, but that door used to lead to a hallway that went down to those 2 executive offices.
Which is why he was spending so much time in the bathroom.
In the ladies' room, yes.
But this is what, when Michelle and I went to, and I used to go to Galveston as a kid, but of course not doing paranormal stuff. But when Michelle and I stayed there specifically for paranormal things, it was so cool how Galveston loves their ghosts and spirits. And, you know, a few years ago was when my spirit guides came in and started helping me do crossover work, crossing over spirits. And so I was like, I wonder, Michelle and I was like, I wonder when we go to Galveston if we'll be doing crossing over work. And what I learned, because we're still learning, we're always going to learn. What I learned is that you don't go into places to cross people over. These spirits love staying here, and these people love their spirits. And
you're right.
And it's like warm and like their family.
That's the way I feel, but I mean, like I say, I'm a lot closer to them than most are. I have had one that was crossed over, the little girl in white that played with the red ball. So she was crossed over by a medium that stayed in the hotel with us. And in fact, Robert actually woke this woman up and took her by the hand and took her downstairs. And that's where she met the little girl. And
so it was almost like it's time.
It's time.
Yeah,
as opposed to
it must have been her time. It must have been her. Yes. So, but I have been told by others that she does visit, that she comes back to visit. Because I have to tell you, when they told me, I'm kind of like, oh, but I mean, I don't want them to be trapped there. I've always said that the energy at the Galvez is so good, 99% of the places, because we have spirits that choose to be there.
Yeah.
And I tell you, when I pass, I want to come back and I at least want to visit.
We definitely felt that not only in the hotel, but in the whole community of Galveston. One of the words that kept coming through to us, and I even think Jen said it towards the end of our trip, everything there is just so understated. It's there, but it's only there if you want to tap into it. But it does seem like the whole community is tapped in, because Chris and I found like we would be having a discussion about something. We go into the community for like an hour and somebody would answer our question and we wouldn't be talking about it there. It just felt like a very tapped in place if you want to be tapped in, and things coming through were understated. They weren't scary. They were just very, I don't know, the vibe there was just very harmonious, and it just beat a little bit differently than any other place I've been.
And you are, I don't know what caused this, but I just got head to toe chills on that too. And I guess because I feel that as well. I mean, believe me, if they have bought a home here, or like me, I mean, that's what keeps me here is the history and the spirits. I mean, and you can't have the ghost without that history. They kind of go hand in hand. And like I said, most of them, you don't hear of bad energies. For the most part, people know their house are haunted, and most of them know who it's haunted by.
I think that is so cool, and I love the fact that Michelle and Carissa, you've been to so many other places too to compare the feelings, because I think this is the first time that you came back and you were like, it was amazing. We didn't need to cross anybody over. They love it there. They want to stay. They want to be a part of even like today's life. And that's just such an extreme difference from, a lot of the other places that some of them trap spirits and it's really not good.
I am so happy you said that.
And who would have thought Galveston? I mean, I grew up going to Galveston as a kid. I'm 46 now, so that was a long time ago when I was a little girl. We'd go.
Oh,
But
But
I
who
will
would have
share it
who would
did
have thought?
yeah, it did start us on that whole chain of thinking, as Carissa mentioned earlier. Maybe not everybody needs to be crossed over. Maybe, that's not why we're here. It just was so different in so many ways. And that was one of them.
And I love
I love that.
I love learning about new stuff. But we never have it all figured out until we cross, probably.
Oh, right. Exactly. So that's one thing about my tour. I've had some people leave reviews. Oh my gosh, it wasn't scary at all. Well, I never said it was scary, and that's, like I said, that's not what we have there. And I mean, I am literally sharing, you were there, y'all were there. I'm literally sharing photos of real spirits, I mean, I have to admit some of them are, I've opened a few jaws, dropped a few jaws, let's just say that, but other than that, they're friendly. And I think that takes Galveston as a whole, even the ghosts are living in paradise.
Exactly. And I do have to ask this question too, as the Ghostess of Galveston, and you have so many things coming up that are new to you. Are you taking your tours outside of the hotel? Will you be doing things in town also, or just mainly staying at the hotel?
For the most part, for the next little bit, I've had a few things going on in life. For the next little bit, it will be focused on the Galvez. Like I said, I do have plans in the future, and it's where the universe takes me.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Exactly. Well, people definitely, if you are in Galveston, go to the Grand Galvez, Hotel Galvez, whatever name you know it by, and do a tour with the Ghostess of Galveston. Her stories are fascinating. And again, they don't have to be scary to be true. Like, not everybody's in it for that jump,
Right.
surprise that we see in Hollywood. She does have lots of photographic evidence, like pictures people have given her over time. And it's just amazing. I am so thankful that we found your tour. And maybe if you're interested, after you do your overnight, we could check back in and see how that went and maybe get on your list for the next overnight.
Yes.
Oh, please do. If you're back in Galveston again, maybe we could do one of those tours with the medium or mediums. I have one actually scheduled May 4th. And I'm so excited about this. And did I already tell y'all about this? I'm
No.
sorry.
No, you didn't.
I told you just about the overnight. So, like I said, the tours that I've been doing with my mediums over the years, I don't say a word at the different stops. The mediums say what they see, hear, feel, sense. And then I come through with what I know. So that's how I've gotten lots of clarification, lots and lots and lots, especially when I hear it from, a different group of mediums. But I've been doing these the entire time that I've been at the Galvez. And I'm like, just the other day, I'm like, why haven't I done one of these for the public? I've done tours with mediums, but they've always came behind me, and I'm like, no, we're going to let her say what she feels and sees first. And then I'll come through with the confirmation that I have.
That's really cool. That's really
It is. And of course, when some of the guests maybe get read, along the ways. But I think it's going to be very eye-opening for the public to see, just what actually is at the Galvez.
Yeah.
I tell you, I mean, I think in the ballrooms, they're still having those big parties. You could just feel it, especially in the music hall. You could just feel the energy. I mean, I could go on and on about the Galvez. I mean, you could tell I'm very passionate about it. And I'm so glad that y'all had the chance to experience that energy.
Well, we're definitely coming back. For our listeners, where can they find you?
Facebook and Instagram, I am Ghostess of Galveston. They could reach me at ghostessofgalveston.com, or my email is ghostessofgalveston@gmail.com. So I think I got the Ghostess of Galveston thing covered. I actually sell my tickets for my tours on Eventbrite. So if they just want to go to Eventbrite, they could just put in Ghost Tour and I'll pop right up there.
Well, I
So
think you're
fun.
fabulous. And I am so thankful that when we were checking into the hotel, because we didn't know there was a tour at the hotel, that's just where we had chosen to stay. And they're like, no, you got to go with her. She's really fun. She tells great stories. And they were on the mark. So thank you so much for being
awesome.
here today.
Yes.
Oh, well, thank y'all for having me. Like I said, I'm so glad that we were finally able to connect, and it was a pleasure to be your guest.
Yes. And please, after the overnight, come back on, bring Jen with you, tell Jen hi from us. And
I
we'll
most
do this
certainly
again.
will.
Yes.
Oh, I look forward to it. I will
Oh, us
definitely let
too.
you know.
Well, Stacy, do you want to close out this episode?
Absolutely. Stay classy.
Stay sassy.
And stay badassy. Until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Stay spooky.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of 3 Cups and a Dash of Spirituality. If you like what you heard, please know that we have a full library of episodes now available on your favorite podcasting platform. You can listen to it now, or you can download it to listen to later. Also, if you'd like to give us a review, we'd appreciate it. We love connecting with listeners, and thank you in advance.